Thank you all for coming today to this is our second, it's our third annual sustainability day that we've done here on the School of Mines campus. It's the second presentation that we've done here, and I'm so glad to see such a great turnout. My name is Beth. I work in the President's office, and I'm on the Sustainability Committee, and they're the ones that put this all together. I'd like to give a special thank you really quickly to Geraldine Roberts and Jennifer Benny and Lucas Hahn for all of their hard work to put today and a lot of things that you're going to see tomorrow in the Survey Center on for Sustainability Day. Now tomorrow is actually the official Sustainability Day, but we thought we'd do something today since a lot of students and community members have time at this particular time to do that. So without further ado, I'll introduce Dr. Scott Amos. He is in our Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, and then Molly Williams, who is one of our grad students in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department. And
Construction Management.
And Construction Management.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Can everybody hear me all right, Geraldine? Okay. The background of this, I've been involved with LEED since about 2002, 2003. I went through a training. Really, that was in its infancy. There wasn't a whole lot going in that time frame. I was in Springfield, Missouri, and got involved in it. I was a USGBC member at Missouri State University. In the past several years, LEED has really blossomed, if you would, and we're now to the point that state governments are mandating that their projects be LEED certified. So today what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is the philosophy of sustainability, what it means to me, what it means to you. We'll talk about the green building from there, and then talk about USGBC. Molly is I had a class last spring where just about everybody in the class walked away with their LEED Green Associates. We've got a couple of other people here. Molly and Jackson are both Green Associates. And it's sort of exciting to take something right from one of our classes and walk away with a marketable certification. I was just talking over here, you guys are all looking for that ability. And I think it's something we could do as a university to serve the community and promote sustainability by offering those types of courses. So we're definitely on the cusp of doing that, and I look forward to working with folks in the future. So my recent involvement is through the Construction Management Master's degree. We have a course in sustainable construction. And that course is divided into 3 phases. The first section talks about the philosophy of sustainable design. We use a book, everybody calls it the Green Book, it's Jason McLennan. Came out in about 2004, and I've used this at several different universities. And the one thing that I hear repeatedly from students, and it's really heartwarming, is that book changed my life. I guess it'd be more heartwarming if they said, Scott, as a teacher, you changed my life. But it's the book, okay? So I get no credit for that. And I had that come out in my evaluations from last spring. A student in one of his comments basically said that was the most life-changing course I took in my time at the university. And it did. It really impacted how he thought about things. That's probably why he can't get a job now, because it's really focused him. But no, he is employed, and things are looking well. So the students come out of the class with the certification, and we talk about also, there was a book by Tom Glavinich, who's a professor down at University of Kansas. The Associated General Contractors had him write a book on managing green construction. And if you're involved with contracts, the contracts documents aren't really any different than other construction contracts that we deal with. However, when you start dealing with scoring the LEED points and things like that, there's a whole lot more documentation that has to go on. You have to follow certain procedures. So it becomes quite a bit more work. So, I'm trying to think if anyone's here. Last spring, I was up talking to a group of 5th graders. We were planting trees. And I was tossing out words like sustainability, the philosophy of sustainability, and things like that. And after I talked for about 20 minutes, the little guy in the back row raised his hand. He said, "Could you use terms that we understand?" And so I thought about that for a minute. And that's one of the problems we face in this green building or sustainability movement. Everybody's got a different interpretation of what sustainability is. So today we're going to talk about green building, but there's a lot of different ones. Let me just give a couple examples here. Pierre Trudeau. Will we be able to face our children and assure them that we did not lack the courage to face those difficult decisions, did not lack the stamina to pursue the correct solutions? Very philosophical. There was a Brundtland Commission that defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. And then a final one here. Sustainable design is a design philosophy that seeks to maximize the quality of the built environment while minimizing or eliminating negative impact to the natural environment. And that's the one that I like. We're not giving up anything to go green. We're actually improving the existing environment, and that for those in the future. So, let's hit it. Guess we can't get it any darker in here. So if someone tells you green building, and that was my answer to the little 5th grader, and it just cleared everything up. He said, "What do you mean by sustainability? What do you mean by philosophy?" and all these words with more than 2 syllables. And I said, "Green." "Oh, geez, now I get it." And they were on board with us. So what do you think of when you hear green building? Anybody?
Solar panels.
Okay. Technologies? Anything else?
Its existence doesn't negatively impact the environment.
Okay, the impact on the environment. You guys are building a green building, aren't you? Okay. You probably think paperwork, right? Anybody else? The building right next door here, the Paleo building, which is what we're going to talk about shortly, is a green building. So you can look at it if you have any questions. And there will be some tours afterwards of the Paleo building, and I'll give a brief introduction to it while we're here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Turns out that building and construction has a significant impact on the environment. It accounts for 72% of our electricity, 39% of total energy use, 38% of the CO2 emissions, 40% of raw materials used, 30% of the waste output, and this is just from one industry, building and construction, 14% of the potable water consumption. So the built environment is not something we can ignore. It has a significant impact. So the U.S. Green Building Council, which Molly will talk about in a while, started looking at these issues years ago and have come up with some ways to minimize those impacts. Next slide, please. I apologize for these light-colored slides. So how do we define green building? Three three aspects: efficiently using energy, water, and materials. And in many cases, a lot of these definitions might be your individual philosophy of sustainability. So we've got the efficient use of energy, water, and materials, protecting occupant health and improving employee productivity. Did anybody think of sustainability as being about people and productivity? As a former administrator, yeah, that one came right to me. The last one's reducing waste and pollution, and that's probably the more common definition of green building or sustainability, if you would. So you can see it's a very holistic definition, and it covers everything. We can look at the land use, the lighting, transportation, the orientation of the building has an impact. Jennifer, is your class here? Everybody that's in Jennifer's class, raise your hands. Okay, you guys just are doing projects on that right now, aren't you? I think one of the things we're going to find out today in this presentation is we have several classes on sustainability being offered through the university. 3 of them in the civil engineering department, and you can literally take a sustainability course any semester of the year. Jennifer's classes are 325, CEE 325 is in the fall, 425 is in the spring, and I've got construction management 506 that is offered in the summer and is available distance. So a lot of opportunity there. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The holistic, so we got our design table over here, right? Engineers and designers and builders. Whole building design is a big part of green building. We look at the systems, how they interface. And again, down there at the bottom, the orientation of the building has a significant impact on energy. Again, everything's tied together. How the envelope of the building contains things. It's inside the building, outside the building, access to the building, the materials you use, many aspects of it. So again, green design, or more properly, integrated project design, is a team effort. It's not just about each person go out and do your best in your area, because all of those are interconnected. They impact each other. You could optimize one area and result in sub-optimizing another area. Next slide. Building costs. One of the comments we always get is that'd be nice, but it costs so much more. And you've got to look at it from a different angle. The traditional design uses basically first cost. What did it cost to build? And we'll go in and do value engineering or something like that and try to minimize or reduce that first cost. The important thing is that in value engineering, we're reducing cost, but theoretically we're not supposed to reduce functionality. Sometimes that gets caught up in the reduction of cost things. I saw in the news a week or so ago that they bid out the Market Square project downtown, and the bids came in a little over $1 million high, and that's on I think it was about a $5 million project, does anyone recall? So 20% over budget. So what do they do now? They reduce costs. How do they do that? They start cutting things out. So you got to be careful when you're doing that you don't take out functionality. That will be a very difficult one because the functionality is subjective in many cases. Okay, so looking at traditional design, whoa, hair trigger there. Looking at traditional design, the focus has historically been on first cost, low bid, things like that. The difference between that and green building is that green building looks at life cycle costs. You can do quite a bit with a project by looking at it and using some very simple engineering economic analysis and determine your life cycle costing. Oddly enough, life cycle costing is a value engineering practice also, but it really was never put into play the way they've done it with green building. So again, in life cycle costing, minimize energy. So you look at your annual energy consumption. That becomes a savings. Some of the metrics we have are based on that. How much water consumption against the baseline? How much energy consumption against the baseline did you save? Both of these processes have the same soft costs. Again, the design, legal fees, financing, the hard costs, the materials are common to both of them. Okay? So, in looking at a green project, we're not only looking at I need a building to fill this need. We're looking at how it affects the economy, economic growth, how it affects social progress, and the environmental stewardship of the project. And that's referred to by the USGBC as the triple bottom line of a project. So Molly, without further ado. Molly and Jackson here were probably the two first. Well, no, Jackson, you were at the end of the semester, weren't you? Molly was probably the first one to get a green associate from the class, and Jackson got his probably within a couple of weeks. So we had 5 students with green associates last spring.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the programs that are set up to kind of encourage sustainability across the U.S. Like Dr. Amos was talking about, the USGBC is the U.S. Green Building Council. It's a nonprofit organization based out of Washington, D.C. that is committed to the design and construction of cost-efficient and energy-saving green building or sustainable building. It was created in 1993 and currently has over 15,000 member organizations. And I know a few different companies around here are members of the USGBC as well. It's made up of members of all different types of professions, including engineers, architects, designers, contractors, architects, one's listed here. And many, many others that aren't listed. I know there's members in all different types of industries, not just construction industries. Okay, LEED. LEED was set up by the USGBC and stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's made up of volunteer committees and was designed to give the U.S. Basically a standard for green building, promote the whole building approach like Dr. Amos was talking about, and to give the construction and building industry more of an eco-friendly ideal. Basically, LEED gives a third-party verification that a building or a project was designed and built to improve in a few different areas such as water efficiency, energy savings, CO2 emission reduction, indoor environmental air quality, and stewardship of resources, and their sensitivity to their impact on the environment. So basically, a building or a project can be designed and constructed with the goal of becoming LEED certified. And there's many benefits to this for the project. Ultimately, a certified project will save money over the life cycle of the building or the project,
mostly through operating and energy cost savings. And they also, a lot of times, will qualify for state or government incentives. This blue table on the right, I think, is pretty important. It shows other benefits that LEED certified buildings have shown. 8 to 9% decrease in their operating costs of the building, 7.5% increase in overall building values, 6.6% improvement in return on investment, 3.5% increase in occupancy, and a 3% increase in the rental value of the property. LEED focuses on a few different categories that they find are most important. They're listed here. Some of them are sustainable sites, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources, indoor environmental quality, innovation and design, and regional priority. And then here, education and awareness, I think, is also a big one that they focus on as well. LEED has set up 4 different certification levels. There's certified, silver, gold, and platinum. Platinum is the highest ranking sustainable certification. The program is based on a 100-point system, and any project must qualify for 40 credits to be certified at the lowest level of LEED certified. I think what is really neat about the LEED program is that any project can pick which credits they want to strive for, and so no project will be granted their certification in the same manner. Every case is looked at on a case-by-case basis. Shown here is an example. It shows which certification points are achieved in which categories. The ones I mentioned on the slide before make up a total of 100 points, but each category is weighted a little bit differently. For example, the LEED building design and construction shows that sustainable sites are given 26 possible points. Water efficiency, 10 possible points. Energy and atmosphere is weighted the heaviest with 35 points. Materials and resources with 14, and indoor environmental quality with 15 points. That makes up 100. Then on top of that, there's also 10 bonus points, which are possible given in the categories of innovation and design and regional priority. And that's related to the projects. There's 8 basic phases of the certification process. Basically, at the beginning, a project will, during the design phase, will set up goals for how they're going to achieve their certification level. Then a project must be registered with the USGBC and LEED, and during the construction, a preliminary review of the project is done. And when construction is finished, a final review is done of all the goals, and any credits that were denied are up for review and resubmittal if they feel necessary. Finally, the project is either accepted and granted its LEED certification or denied ultimately. There's a lot more that we didn't talk about as far as LEED and USGBC goes, but hopefully this gives you just kind of a brief understanding of how it works. I know Dr. Amos is going to talk a little bit more about the LEED certification efforts that we have going on here at Tech, which are pretty exciting in the past few months. So.
Just out of curiosity, how many people here are on the LEED team for the campus? Anybody? Okay. We have, what, 3 LEED projects currently on campus?
Yeah.
And you guys are working on one of them. The, I think the dorms, the CBE building, and the Paleo building were both submitted for LEED early on. Again, the process starts at conception. You don't come in after the fact and say, wouldn't it be cool? And pull out the scorecard and say, we got enough points, let's go for it. It's a plan, and you have to develop a strategy, and it carries through the design, the construction. There are LEED categories, as we'll discuss in a minute, that relate to literally every aspect of the design, the construction, and the utilization of the building after it's completed. So our case study today is the Paleo building, just next door here. And let's see what they've got. I just snatched this out of a magazine. I've been asking these questions, and all of a sudden this magazine article came up, and it was like, wow, that's our building. So the owner is the Board of Regents. The contractor was Mark Young Construction out of Frederick, Colorado, Denver area. The architect was Anderson Mason Dill Architects out of the Denver area. And several local engineers, Renner, Miro, and West Plains. Subcontractors, Heil Mechanical, High Tech Mechanical, Clark Electric, NYC's Concrete Division, Bighorn Masonry, Hagen Glass, Siding, and Lindexco. Project started in about March of 2009, was finished this last summer. Punch list takes forever though, doesn't it? And it was about a $6.2 million project. Next slide. The magazine that I was reading was Mountain States Construction, sort of a trade journal put out by McGraw-Hill and Dodge. And they have an annual competition. The category that we were nominated in was the Outstanding Community Contribution, Outstanding Green Building Project. And we got the silver medal, if you would. And that basically recognizes the contractor for his work on the building. So we do have a building that was award-winning on two different fronts. You've got the LEED Gold. We just found out last Friday. It was announced that the building did get gold certified. And so we're off and running. The building was originally, the state basically came out and said all new construction will be designed for LEED Silver. And going through this process, the integrated design process, again, you pick your points. You can strategically go after certain points and move up. So you set a target, and they reevaluate it, as Molly was saying. And when everything's done, they do a huge audit, and you literally have to, Geraldine, you were quite involved with the documentation on that, I believe. So the contractor has to document all sorts of things, how they did their work, how they disposed of their trash. You have to prove that the right materials went in, and so there's this big validation process. But again, we're pleased to have got the gold, and the CVE building will probably be the next one down the road. Or what's the status of?
Residence halls are on their way too. They're
Okay.
working through the process.
Okay. Now I was surprised yesterday. I was looking at the USGBC website, and they have a way where you can find, all the projects in the state or a town or whatever that are LEED certified. And I was surprised a little bit how few buildings in South Dakota are LEED certified, especially given the state mandate. So what that might mean is that you should go for it. That should be part of your design, but I'm not sure that they're necessarily saying when you get done it will get certified, because there is some follow-up action. Again, I'm not sure on that, but I mean, there wasn't a dozen buildings in the state. So one of the things that we've got going on locally, and students, you might be interested in this, is we're in the final stages of forming a South Dakota chapter for the USGBC. working on it for a year. Most of the current officers are, well, we're spread between Rapid City and Sioux Falls. And I happen to be the education guy, the education chair for that group. But they're quite interested in what we have going on. And through the development of that group, again, we're going to collaborate with them and try to offer both the prep courses for the exams. And once you get examined or get certified, it's a lot like your PE or your FE. You need to keep taking continuing education credits. And so we're going to be offering courses to support that aspect also. Let's go to the next slide. This particular series of slides was actually developed as the education component to get some points for the project. So it was developed by the design firm. I didn't change too much other than made it fit on my elegant background there. It's okay that I used that, wasn't it? I was worried. Okay, so the paleontology research. As you go through the building, PRC, I was reviewing these slides yesterday and I got to one at the very end. And it said something about PRC. And I had no idea what a PRC was. And I was looking in all of my books. Was it plumbing, something construction or whatever? So I took it out. And then the next time I reviewed the slides, I said, oh, it's the building. Okay. So the PRC. Let's go to the next slide. As I said before, the green design is really significant with this type of a building, with its connection with the past and the future. It really does make a compelling story. The original design objective was silver, and actually through the design charrettes and things, they came up with enough points to get gold, and the execution ensured that. So, and this, again, this is hot news. Last Friday is when we were informed of it. Okay? As you go through the building, you'll see placards. It's well marked, again, part of the education component, and encourage everybody to go over after this presentation. And who's going to be leading those tours? Is anyone here that's part of that group?
I'm going to take everybody over there, and then
Okay.
we'll be meeting some of the paleontology students and Sally Shelton, the collections
Okay,
manager
good.
over there. So.
Okay, there's an artist concept. Looks pretty close to what they designed. That's good news, huh? Okay, next one. Molly talked about several of the areas that are scored. And as you go through the placards, you'll see some percentages and things. And it's those percentages that dictate the points. I'd like to have, the reason I was going through the USGB site yesterday was for every LEED project, they have a case study posted. And it's got their scorecard right out there in front, where it shows how they got the points. And ours is so new that it wasn't available yet, but in the future it will be. So, alternative transportation, and we're not talking really complicated things to get some of these points. Go ahead to the next slide. There's a sign out in the parking lot that says fuel efficient vehicles. That got us a handful of points. Okay? But it's this philosophy. It's thinking through these things. The bike rack got us some points. And it's pretty neat to go over there. I didn't believe that that sign was there. I had to go out looking for it. I honestly hadn't noticed it till I read this slide. And sure enough, right out in front of the building, so they not only have designated parking for fuel efficient vehicles, but they made it good parking for fuel efficient vehicles. Right, next slide. I struggle with this word. Zero escaping. If you look out at the around the building, there's been a lot of use of native grasses, trees, things like that, that are made for our environment. The whole idea here is to minimize the need for watering. Okay, let's go to the next one. Well, that's really light. So what you have down here in front on the hill, they put some irrigated turf. They put a bioretention pond that most of the time looks like a mud hole. And then around the building, native grasses. I put in a yard this summer, and I was toying it the first of the year. I was teaching my class and everything and studying native grasses, and I told everybody how I was going to go do that. And it turned out that planting a native grass lawn was more work than putting sod in. So I chose the money and went with the sod. But I'm here to confirm that I've almost got native grasses in there now with the way the weeds are growing in it. So, but it's interesting that I did quite a bit of study on this, and to get a really good quality prairie established, the first couple of years are critical, and you have to literally mow it. You know, you mow your lawn to keep the weeds down, right? It makes the grass come in. But you got to do the same thing for a good prairie, for a native lawn. And so I was troubled there because I couldn't tell the difference between the native grasses and the weeds. So it's a lot of work. Okay, let's go to the next one. There's some examples of the different things out there. A lot of ponderosa pines. I can't tell the trees because they don't have leaves. But the western wheatgrass, the blue grama, and the thick spike wheatgrass. And again, you go back, the back side of the building and around the sides are all the native grasses. And then I believe the lower hill that's irrigated is traditional turf. Ponderosa pines across the front. Down here between these two buildings are some of these other trees. Okay? Water. Again, this is a significant thing for getting some of the LEED points. You do a calculation early on in the design. They say a building of this size and this occupancy will use this much water. So the engineers, when they designed the plumbing and mechanical systems, were able to reduce the water consumption by 40% by using various high-efficiency fixtures. The roof runoff is handled through the bioretention pond, catches stormwater, and again, the use of native plants and water-efficient irrigation systems. Next slide. Some of the high-efficiency fixtures. Next slide. Commissioning process. That's the startup of all of your building systems. This project used a commissioning process. You install high-efficiency systems, you want to be sure they're working properly. You don't just go in and throw it in and say, you know, the air is cool coming out of there, or the water's wet coming out of there, or the toilet flushes. You need to go in and test them and be sure everything is working to the design standard that was established. Another helpful aspect of the commissioning process is it helps you catch problems early on and take care of them. In construction, the hardest part of the project is the last couple of percentage points. Deadly punch list. And so by having these formal commissioning process, hopefully you can take care of some of those items. I was reading an article the other day. One of my students had reported on it, and it was a value engineering process applied to a large project. I like to equate value engineering to the integrated design process. And the student reported that the value engineering process in that project cost $150,000. It resulted in $5 or $6 million in savings. So there is some upfront cost paying attention to these things, but if you look at the life cycle costs, again, it's worth it. Okay, next slide. Materials. This is a good one over there. The placards on the walls and throughout the building will show you the different materials that they use. One of the more interesting ones is in the lobby. The walls are done in sunflower seeds. So this could become the sunflower palace instead of the corn palace, right? Okay. I wonder if the corn palace gets credits for those. Interesting thought. Okay, and here you see the bottom right here, the Dakota burl are the sunflower seeds. Concrete, fly ash concrete. MR in the back, he does a lot of work with fly ash, don't you?
Good. Yes, good job.
Wait for the bonus, okay? You know, that's something else to think. We talk about what are we doing on campus sustainability. Bits and pieces all over campus. Last spring we had a student do one of his his master's degree project, one of the construction students, on pervious concrete. Can you imagine concrete that you pour water on it and it runs right through, just like a filter? Why would we want that? Yeah, parking lot, stop runoff and things, right? And so MR was leading that project, and we've got a pad. Is it up at the National Guard base?
Yeah, parking lot of the National Guard camp. We did it 2 years ago.
And so we've got some good test products going. So again, we are a whole lot of things going on about sustainability at the School of Mines. Let's see what else we got in there. Whoops, stay there. Recycled steel. The carpeting has recycled materials in it. And I haven't researched this one yet, but when you go over there, look at the countertops. It's a paper resin countertop. So, again, all of this stuff will stand out, and there's placards over there explaining the different features. Next one. Energy. I went through my house last week and replaced everything with the little compact fluorescent bulbs. And on the package, it said that the bulb would reduce energy consumption 75%. That's pretty significant. What's the payback on something like that? In this case, again, to get the points, 25% against the baseline. Tim, were you on the LEED team? Some have to be on the side. Gerald. All right. Let's go ahead and look at what they've done on energy. T5 lights, motion sensors. You go into different rooms, and I believe the restrooms all have motion sensors. Do offices have motion sensors? Okay. Insulated glazing units. Dr. Benning's class, you guys are experts on these, I was told. You've been doing calculations, heat transfer calculations. See a lot of neat things happening here. Next slide. Recycling. This is a real challenge for the contractor. You can't just throw your stuff in a dumpster. You have to actually sort it. Go ahead and show the slide. Bins for different types of, again, wood that can be recycled or trash that can be recycled. And it takes some careful attention to that. Geraldine, you're running our recycling project here on campus, right?
Yep.
And it really ruins her day when you put something in the wrong can. It costs us money, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it does.
Okay.
A good load of recyclables can become non-recyclables by what other things you put in it, so.
Okay. Next slide. Ventilation. Again, remember one of the criteria was people comfort, productivity. And so we really focus on ventilation. This is an area, so it's 35 points.
Yeah. Well, 15 for indoor environmental
Okay.
air quality.
So
but-
15% of the points could be from ventilation. This affects health. It affects a lot of different things. Okay, next slide. Next slide. VOCs. This is some band, isn't it? We happen to have multiple VOC experts in the audience today. Dr. Benning has done quite a bit of work with VOCs when she was at Virginia Tech, wasn't it? Volatile organic compound. And for those of you like me that are just old contractors, that's the odor, okay? The paint odor. They use products, again, that new smell is the VOCs coming off in a very simplistic way. It's the ones that you can't smell probably that are going to get you, right?
Yeah.
And there's been studies, you'll read about this, the VOCs in a plastic bottle, isn't it? Isn't that an area? What comes out of a
Those
plastic
are semi-volatile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Okay, so they're everywhere. But there now are products out that reduce the exposure to formaldehyde and these other harmful chemicals. And those are on the next slide. So it's in fabrics, it's in adhesives, it's in, again, sealers, the carpet. Okay, next slide. Another interesting thing was through careful design, they were able to downsize the footprint of the building. The footprint of the building, again, is a factor. What impact does the building have on the surrounding environment? Well, the bigger the footprint, the bigger the impact. You also address that through the transportation things. You build a big building, how are people going to get to it? The size of the building affects energy, it affects quite a few other things. So there's a lot of synergies between some of these different points. Okay. Usually when the audience leaves, that means your presentation's done. So let me, a couple more slides, okay. They reduced the size of the building by putting in this mobile shelving. I haven't had a chance to see that yet. Okay, next slide. So there it is. As you go in, you can see the Dakota burl on the walls, concrete floors with stain, the different light fixtures, and our next step, if you're so inclined, is to go over there and take a look at it. Any questions on what we're doing? I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I do. The city of Rapid City, like Chamber of Commerce or any entities in the city, are they looking into what we're doing on campus and emulating that, or are we emulating things that are going on in the community?
I haven't seen that yet. I sat on the 2012 committee this summer, and we discussed it quite a bit in there if people could, some of their projects, what a bang they get out of them, especially things like civic centers and new, any big new major facility, to get a huge bang for the buck out of it. There are cities that are doing it. We're a little bit behind, I think, in Rapid City, actually.
There has been a green building committee started.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Any others?
Sir, you mentioned there was a state mandate for all new construction. Is that just for state buildings, or is it for all new buildings?
State buildings, state-funded buildings. correct?
Is there any thought of putting fuel efficient vehicle priority parking in front of buildings other